Hey, welcome to another video from the Outdoor Analyst. Guys, I've got a super fun one for you. Today is going to be what I'm going to say is what Batman's knife, what Batman would carry if he had a pocket knife. It is so over the top and yet incredibly practical and flashy all at the same time. A little bit of everything. You know, it's the billionaire knife. And yeah, you've got to be rocking some dough if you want to buy this thing straight up. Now, I'm just going to be honest. I got secondhand. This is the second Rockstead I ever got. I have three. I have had three. I actually sold my first one. My first one was a Heisen. My first experience with their insane mirror polish blade, ZDP 189. It was great. This is their YXR 7, so this is their tool steel variant, and that's what they use for their DLC, their black on black mirror polished edge. And it is insane. As you can see, you can literally, it's a mirror. You can see everything with this. It is ridiculous. And it also holds fingerprints like nobody's business. So this knife is not for everyone. I really love it. It's one of my favorite everyday carries. I'm going to do a top 5 for folders so far that I have enjoyed this year. Well, it's a little over halfway through the year, and I'll do another one kind of recapping around Christmas or after Christmas. But this is in there. It's that good. So you're not going to get a ton of negative, but there are a lot of people don't talk about really the edge grind on this knife this much. So before we get into it, and then get into the good, the bad, and the awesome, why I really do enjoy it, let's get into some size comparisons. This knife is actually pretty big. My first one was the Heisen. This is the Shin, if I haven't said it yet. This is the Rockstead Shin. This is kind of like their regular flagship, and it's about the size of a paramilitary 2 as far as length goes in the blade and in the handle, and it's just it's a lot thicker, and it's also way more ergonomic, we'll say that. But yeah, as you can see, it's pretty darn thick, and the blade stock is about the same as the PM2. Pretty fantastic as far as that goes. So size on that, just about the same. We'll throw out a Benchmade bug out here. Everybody knows super thin bug out. Quite a bit smaller, shorter in the handle, shorter in the blade. The bug out is in comparison. Here's the thinness, and the weight is also way different. This is 5.11 ounces, and this is like 2. Huge difference. Love the bug out. It's a little too expensive for what it is these days. Love this Spyderco Kruger. Also amazing. We'll do one more. Rick Hinderer. It's going to be XM18 3.5 inch, and it's really about the same size. It's a little smaller. It's a little smaller than the Hinderer, but you get a little more cutting edge. Just the handle is actually, it's about the same size as the Hinderer. Wow, shocking. And width-wise, you're actually pretty close to it. So, you know what? It's about the same size as the Hinderer XM18 3.5 inch. There we go. It's kind of hard with the camera. Yeah, I know it's a little crazy. Wow, shocking. It feels a little smaller for some reason in hand. It just feels really good. Oh, there's one thing. There's the action. Oh my goodness. Ooh, yeah, saw my face a little bit there. Oh, got the beard going. This action is really the best that you can get for a washer knife. And that is saying something. I'm going to pull out one more, I guess, in comparison. This is the Les George button lock, also on washers. It's about the same size as that, not as tall. The button lock's a little thinner on the Les George. Originally, this was probably one of the best washer smoothnesses out there. And I'll do a review on this knife. It's insane. The Les George is what moved me from Chris Reeves because it's a little smoother and I think it's a little better. The best of the best is actually Rockstead for smoothness. This is on washers, and you would almost imagine it's on bearings, but it is hydraulic feeling along with that insane smoothness. So I know it's more, if you have a Chris Reeve, this is way smoother. This is that hydraulic feeling, just way smoother. If you have a Les George, and you know how good those are, they're the next step up from Chris Reeves. This is the next step up from Les George. This is a semi-custom. I think all those I would say are pretty much semi-customs. Maybe actually, no, Chris Reeves production. Actually, I think technically this Les George is just a production knife, but I feel like they actually kind of do some handwork on them. They're kind of semi-custom. Les George is kind of next level. They produce a lot less knives than Chris Reeve, and they're amazing. This has definitely got a lot of handwork done, almost all on the blade. And the blade is fantastic, but it's not as good as some people are saying it is. Why do I say that? It's one of my best cutters, and when it comes to just like cutting open packages, it is insane. And cardboard. Yeah, this is my user, Rockstead. Can you flick it? You can, but it's pretty hydraulic, so it's not like super flicky. It's meant to be slow rolled, and it is just so darn good. No lock stick whatsoever. Perfect deployment. It has a little bit of a weaker detent. As everybody knows, the Rockstead Shin, they do weak detents, and I don't know if I can do this on camera. There it is. I didn't touch anything. I whipped that out. Now, if you're just kind of shaking it like this, it's not going to come out. I have a Spartan Harsey that's much lighter on the detent, but if you whip this, it'll come out. So there is that. I think it's actually really good, just about perfect on the detent, but it could be considered light, and I wouldn't judge you if you thought it was a light detent. Man, this shines. It picks up everything. This on the handle, I love the texturing on this side. It is pretty smooth. This is aluminum. It is not. It is two scales molded together. They're blended together very, very well. It's not an integral. It feels like an integral, but you can see the line, and you can't feel it in any way, shape, or form, but it's there. The grip this is Stingray. Stingray is amazing. It catches the light. You probably see it catching light really well. In low light, it sparkles pretty much like a little bit of a diamond on there. It's awesome. The other side is completely smooth, so it's kind of a smooth knife, but ergonomics are insane. Feels great in the hand. Feels amazing. I know I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, but ergonomics I do really enjoy. Could be considered a little bit slick. I guess this is like a liner frame lock. It's basically a frame lock in there, but it's probably a liner lock technically. Super, super well done. Incredible lockup. You get the same sound every single time. It locks up just bank fall good. So good. And it's kind of weighty. I'll be honest. It's 5.11 ounces, and that's, I find, I guess luxury and weight goes two ways. Either super light, where everything's titanium and incredible lightweight, kind of like with watches, and I'm going to use a watch reference on this quite a bit, or fairly dense and heavy. And this actually feels more dense and heavy. So much so, as soon as I picked it up, I thought, ooh, this feels good. And it's heavier than, it's actually probably about this, it feels heavier than the Hinderer. Yeah, it's heavier than the Hinder. It's got at least maybe a half an ounce on it. And it doesn't seem like that'd be much, but it just feels super dense, and that's the aluminum handle. I'm not going to diss aluminum. This knife is 7 years old, I think, and it's in great shape. It's been a user, holds up well. Pretty awesome. Before I get into the blade, I will say the clip's pretty lame. No way to say it. Just a basic spring clip on here. Should this be milled for the price? 100%. Does this clip actually work very well in pocket? Yes, it does. And this one I think is better than the Heisen clip. It looks pretty decent. It matches the blade really well. It has a great polish on it, and you can kind of see it playing off with the blade. It's okay. Is it really for the price tag of what it should be? No, it should be probably something special and milled. But it works. It works. It kind of seems like a little bit of an afterthought, though. Now, the blade is immaculate. I love cutting with this thing. I love this being an EDC, light use EDC. Why do I say light use? Because it's expensive, and because it's just, it's a convex Scandivex. It's a Scandivex. Everybody on my channel knows Scandivex pretty much. It's great for woodwork. It's also great for slicing. It is not great for food prep because it comes down to a 0 bevel here. Oh yeah, it gets fingerprints on it. So it cuts incredibly well. Some people, I feel like with a brand new one, could probably cut themselves just by doing that. 0 edge on this thing. It's amazing. What it does do is it actually gets pretty thick pretty fast as you're going up, which means it splits everything. So for woodwork, immaculate. Splits wood, kindling, it's great. For regular cutting tasks, it's actually really good. Cutting through like plastic is amazing. Cardboard, it kind of gets bound up a little bit up here, and that's okay, but it's not going to be like a super slicey knife. For food prep, it sucks. You know, if I'm going out with the family, am I going to put the Rockstead or let's say we're going out for a picnic, going out for a hike, you know, there's going to be snacks, going to be some apples. This is not the knife to take to cut. No, take the Spyderco PM2. This goes through food so much better. It's a full flat. It's a full flat and it's a fairly thin grind. Bug out, way better slicer. It's not technically a full flat. It's actually a little bit, I guess, like a saber ground, but it's thinner in the blade, thinner all around. It's not going to split. Way better for food prep. Does this outcut it just regularly, like slicing stuff? Oh yeah. Oh yeah, this does. The zero edges, it slices like crazy. But it's not great for food. It's just not. It splits, it binds. Just did an apple this morning. I was like, yep, yeah, yet again, not so great. You gotta actually like slice into this thing at an angle for it to work well. Can't go straight down. It just splits food out. So there is that. It also, it's a fingerprint magnet. You can touch this anywhere. And your oils, and believe me, this thing picks up every amount of oil physically possible. It shows. Is that really bad? It's not as bad on the black DLC. I'll do a video on my other stainless one, or the ZDP 189 that's not coated, and everything shows insanely, just insane on that one. But this one, it's not a love-hate. It's a love-love. Just know that every time I use this knife, I wipe it off. And that limits the use of it for me. It does. It means it's going to be in the fancy carry. It means it's going to go to fancy meetings where I bring fancy pens. I wish it just kind of makes me want to get a zirconia pen. Even though this isn't zirconium, it's aluminum. Feels like it, though. It feels just as dense as zirconium, which is crazy. It's probably what they're really going for. But this knife is immaculate. The Shin is every bit of what they say it is. Is it worth the price tag? For me, I got this at like 60% off secondhand. So to me, it was great. It's the same price as a Chris Reeve. And in that area, yeah, it beats it. And I would take it any day of the week because it's cooler and more fancy. Would I take this as far as a harder use knife over, like, let's say a Chris Reeve or even a Les George? No, this knife will do more. It's Magna Cut. It is going to be it's not rock weld as high as this. This is, even though it's a tool steel, it's rock weld so high, it's not super tough. Great edge retention. I'm almost for certain this Magna Cut is tougher. This screw wear, gonna be tougher. Gonna do some hard tasks. I'm gonna take the crew wear knife any day of the week over this, even though this is a tool steel, but it's because of the Rockwell. It's a little crazy, so it's more of a light use knife. It's more of that fancy carry. This is, I mean, I'm not gonna take this knife to weddings. It's pretty big, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're not that fancy. But it's like it's your next step up. It's not going out to the backyard to beat the death out of something or just going to, you know, do a little fish or something. This is your everyday beater, awesome knife. If this is the most expensive knife you own, don't think this is a beater. This knife is amazing. Goodness gracious. Paramilitary 2, crew wear. Ooh, this thing's great. It's so lightweight, fantastic. Anyway, back to this Rockstead. Japanese made, it's fantastic. If this is your boat, and you love the looks of this, yeah, this is Batman's knife, I feel like. It is over-the-top slicey goodness. It is super ergonomic. It may be a little slick in the handle. The clip may be a little bit wanting, but you know, I like the mirror polish on both. They do play off each other really well. So this one gets a little bit of a pass, whereas my Heisen didn't. It just looked like crap on the knife. It just looks super cheap. Whereas for some reason with the DLC version, this actually works a lot better. Man, it's so smooth. The action is hard to explain how good it is. You would think this is a bearing knife where they just wanted it to feel slightly hydraulic. But it's not. It's washers. It does have very small hardware, and some people love and hate that. They're just trying to hide it, essentially. That's why they went super small. Would I have liked it bigger? Probably. Yeah, probably. One downfall. You can't mess with the pivot. You also lose your warranty if you pull this knife apart. So take that how it is. Would I change this in any way, shape, or form? Nope. It's pretty much perfect. It's like an Apple product. Good out of the box. Don't need to work on anything. And they also have a lifetime sharpening policy. If you want to send this back to Japan, did I say Japan? Japan. Feel free. I think it's like 60 to 100 bucks by the time all that's said and done, and they will resharpen it the exact same way, all the way to 2000 grit. and get your mirror polish perfect and your edge retention back to perfect again. For me, I just drop this thing. Just drop it. It's good to go. I haven't had any issues. If I ever chip it, I'm probably screwed, and I'll end up messing with it myself. Probably before I would send it back. Ooh, yeah, probably. That's just me. But yeah, if you want to, you can send it back for life, and they'll keep sharpening it as long as they're around. Very, very cool. Rocksteads. This knife is great. If you can find this knife on sale, or for me, over half off, 60% off, perfect. I think that fits the price point. I think in reality, it's a little overpriced. This is like a $1,100 to $1,350 knife, depending on where you're at and who you're getting it from. That's insane. I think that is insane, and I probably wouldn't pay that, except the mirror polishing. You won't find this anywhere else. I think this is actually Zaratsu polishing. If you ever owned a Grand Seiko, their Zaratsu polishing is very similar. Same mirror, black, inky, polished look. I think it's the same thing, and you'll get the same thing off of really high-end German watches too. They're German tooling that Grand Seiko bought. I think Rockstead uses that same stuff. I could be incorrect, but if you have a mirror polish on your watch and it's a $5,000 watch, I kind of get where they get that pricing. That's where the pricing comes. Like, it costs that much to do that polishing for a Grand Seiko. That's a big part of it, is the labor hours put into it and the training. For them, I think it's a 3-year training process to even learn how to do this mirror polishing before you're out of the apprentice zone. Because it is, I think it could be done on like a 10 machine, something like that, for their Zaratsu. This is probably pretty similar. And it's very time intensive, and that's where your labor comes in. So is it really worth the cost? Possibly. This is a lot more material than a Grand Seiko. This is also a lot harder steel than what they're using in those watches, or titanium. Titanium, I think, might be a little more complicated, but on their steel watches, this is much more complicated than the steel they're using. So the cost can be built in that way. Now, granted, Zaratsu may be a copyrighted term, so it could be completely something different. But from what I can see, I no longer have my Grand Seiko Snowflake, but it was exactly the same as this. That reflection for the Rocksteads is it's all the same. Looking and feeling and printing, all the same. So that's where the cost really comes in, is the blade. If you can find one on a deal, I think it's great. Go for it. If you really just love it that much and you just want to be the only one that touches it, yeah, it's probably worth it for you to go ahead. The action is the best washered action I've ever felt. This knife especially, it's just supreme. It's well broken in. This thing's 7 years old. It's just finely tuned awesome. My original Heisen had lock stick to start with, so that took a little while to break through, and then it became absolutely excellent. So there's that. They're not perfect. Some knives need working in. If you don't want to wipe the blade off every time you touch it, this isn't the knife for you. For a lot of people, for the price, this is not the knife for you. I got lucky. I got absolutely lucky and got this thing for a heck of a steal. And for that, I love it. So for everybody else, I just kind of wanted to do a little bit more of a comparison, talk a little bit more about the convex, kind of the Scandi Vex that you're getting on this knife. Think of it as a Scandi. Think of it as a Scandi Vex. That's how it cuts. Is it great? Yes. Is it great for everything? No. But this knife is, it's pretty awesome. I really do enjoy it. It's smooth. It just makes you feel classy, and it does feel beefy, as it just feels like absolute class. The weight of this thing, it's not light, and that's why I think that's part of why I enjoy it. I find the luxury feel is here because it's on the weightier side. I also find luxury in ultra light. They both have their place. And this knife definitely has its place. It's incredible. So that's my review of the Rockstead Shin. I know this was way longer than it probably should have been. That's fine. I just love talking about this knife. It's so good. If you like it, if you're on the edge of like, oh, I really think I want to get this, but I'm not sure. As long as you're okay with really wiping that blade off, I think you're gonna enjoy it. And also, 7 years, there's not really any scratches except slightly on the edge. Pretty insane. And this thing also is just razor sharp, just insanely sharp. It's just sticky. Sticky, sticky sharp, and I love it. Just a little bit of stropping, comes right back. So yeah, if you're on the edge, I would suggest getting it. It is pretty darn amazing. But it is not magic, and it is not perfect for every situation. Just like nothing is. We all have our preferences and whatnot. But here we go. That's my rambling on the Shin. Hopefully that was a nice in-depth overview and look at it. I love it. Rockstead's not the best company out there. I don't know who technically would be, but they're up there. Their precision is immaculate. There are things that are not great about this knife, but there are things that are actually just immaculate and fantastic. And yes, this is the Batman knife, man. Batman needs this knife. It's just so cool. That DLC black on black, and I'm not even like, I normally don't even love that, but for this, it just, man, it pops to a new level, and it's immaculate. Just super cool. Super, super cool. Super soft gemping. Yeah, I just fondle this knife, man. Even though you put prints on it, it doesn't even matter. It's just so wonderful and wonderfully smooth. Great lockup. You know what? Thanks for hanging out. I appreciate it. Like, subscribe. We'll have some more fun videos coming. I will catch you on the next one.